Hey guys, it's SF, and as you have seen, Kushinada is coming up in NA on Thursday, March the 12th at 8 p.m. EST or 5 p.m. PST and whatever other time zones there are. And I'm going to be talking about how to beat Kushinada and what she does and some monsters that are really good for a dungeon. First, I'm going to talk about the monster herself. This is her in max level, evolved, and plussed out. So her abilities is Minesweeper, Gauge is a no damage wall / Vivilop Slayer. Strike Shot is her, you can move, it's like a command SS, but you don't have to touch monsters, you don't have to bump into your allies to actually make them move. And bump combo Plasma. Plasma is how when a monster bumps into Kushinada and then they create a chain, a plasma chain between the two monsters, and then whoever enemy that's in between that chain will take damage. Her uses, there are a lot of uses for her. Of course, she is really good at no damage wall monsters as well as Minesweepers. Her best one is probably Queen Butterfly because it's all mines and damage walls. And then as per Vivilop Slayer, she's really good for Emerald Dragon. That's the only Vivilop monster pretty much out there in terms of descent bosses. But she's also good for acclaimed mobs. There are some mobs that are Vivilop, which are the reflecting lasers, birdies, and the bombs, the ones that just explode around them. But what makes her really good is that she can be put into almost any dungeon besides like fire dungeons, probably. Well, you can probably take one or two in the fire dungeon and you'll still probably beat them. But why? Because even if there's dungeons that are like full of no gravity barriers, her she's just an SS or bump combo bot on those dungeons. She doesn't need to move. People just use her plasma to actually do damage because her plasma does do damage if you does do a lot of damage if you know how to play with that, as well as the strike shot. Having not being without bumping into your allies to make them move, you can just move your enemies to attack in random directions. How you actually use her strike shot, I'll probably show it in another video. But that's basically it for Kushinada. Very good. I recommend getting 2. But that's basically it. Now let's look at the dungeon. Now her dungeon. Strike Shot that does have a good strategy for her, but I think it was a little bit uses a lot of strike shots that I don't really think that are at places that are not really necessary. They usually tell you to stall a lot of time, which is really good if you're a beginner, but if you really want like fast clear times, don't use your strike shots unless you really need to. So first stage, nothing much to talk about. Go vertically up, especially when you have Izanami or Roma, which can pierce through the warps and into the shadow gulfs. The shadow gulfs are basically the one that does the most damage. One thing to know about shadow gulfs in all the stages is her top right is their top right counter, which is the number 3 right now in that picture. It's a meteor. If it hits you, it's an auto. It'll hit somebody. It'll hit one of your monsters, and it will have a chance to stun. And once they're stunned, it will skip their turn, 1 turn only. It's not skipping like the next turn of your. It skips the next turn of the monster that got stunned. So that monster will not be able to move on the next turn whichever order may that be. And it's all completely random. So it's not always the next monster next. It could be like the monster that just attacked or ones after. That's the first stage. Second stage, there are zombies. Zombies is a zombie loop, but it only does 1 monster, if I remember. 2 monsters. But every single turn it's a mini zombie loop. But there's not much damage from the enemies. The zombies does do EX laser, but it's really small. The Gaias in the middle, the 2 monsters in the middle, does do the giant laser and close spread shot. The close spread shot doesn't do that much, and the laser, it's big but it doesn't do that much. Even if you stack them, it's only like 10-20k for like 4 monsters, not like 1. So second stage is not that bad, especially when you have a lot of easy enemies. Third stage is clear shell golfs as fast as possible. And zombie, although you want to kill zombies first, but it's better to aim to kill the shell golfs first, and then the zombies will just kill themselves in the crossfire. Especially when you have like Romas and Izunamis in there, it's very easy. They'll just die on their own. Okay, fourth stage, Shadow Golf. The giant Shadow Golf. This is one of the hard parts of the dungeon. He has 5 million, 5.3 million. First thing you have to do is to clear the mobs first. Shadow Golf doesn't do that much. Well, he does do that much, but if you get really close to him. He has a spread shot, he has poison, and he doesn't revive, if I remember correctly. He doesn't revive. So it's basically a tank, basically tank out Shadow Golf's damage. But that's pretty much it. Just clear the mobs first, and then defeat Shadow Golf that way. Some people might want to use a strike shot, an Izanami strike shot here or there, but I would suggest don't use it unless you really need it. Just to keep in mind of how much damage he does, and then how much you can tank for the next few turns. 5.3 million is a lot, but it is doable. It just takes a while. Okay, the fifth stage, it is Kushinada, the mini boss. There's nothing much to talk about. She is very weak. She only has 1.6 million, and then damage wise, she has a cross laser, which does a lot for a mini boss anyways, but it is an easy stage. It's easier than the Shadow Golf stage, but just keep in mind of the position of the cross laser right there, and then the Gaias are the only ones that actually do damage. But as long as you clear them or just stay away from them, it's pretty easy. The main thing is just keep away from that cross laser position. Memorize it, or get the feel of how big it is, and then move on from there. Next up is the boss. There's 3 stages for the boss. First one is 3.2 million. But first thing you have to do is, if you're a Roma, then just on these boss stages, if you're a Roma, just go crazy, go ham on Kushinada. If you're Izanami, just focus on wave clear, and then bump up and use the laser to slowly whittle down Kushinada. One thing to note about all the boss stages in Kushinada is the top right. There is a 19 counter on it, and it is an insta kill. So if you take too long, then it's an insta kill, but that's only really relevant in the last stage, which I'll get to later. But the trick for the first stage is just clear the bottom 2. If you're a Roma, then just go crazy on Kushinada. Best to go vertical or horizontal, depending on your position on the weak spot. If you do it correctly, then it will do about 1 to 1.5 million per turn for Roma. There are warps. That's the warp layout. She does let out warps herself, so even defeating like the warp monsters won't do much. And that's her cross laser position for the first stage. Just keep in mind of that. Second stage is, there's a friendly Shadow Golf on the top left. If you have 3 Izanamis, you can probably use 1 on the Shadow Golf and Kushinada, and then do it that way. And she does have revive on all the stages, but on the second stage, the revive is only on the bottom left Shadow Golf. So it's very easy to beat on the second stage. Second stage is a little bit easier if you defeat the Shadow Golf first. That's a cross laser position. And there is a warp layout. There should be a warp layout somewhere. But, oh yeah. But final stage, it is the hardest. One of the hardest. About 8 million HP. First thing is, if you have Izanamis, only use Izanami strike shots if there are mobs out. Don't just do it just to get damage onto Kushinada. Do it to mob clear, as well as hit Kushinada. You just need to hit it once. You don't have to hit it a lot of times. If you're Roma, then just go crazy on this. Just go crazy like all the other stages. It's best to lead off with a Roma on the last stage because warps are going to hinder your output on your strike shot, on your Roma strike shot. But that's pretty much it. The only way you can really lose with an ideal team is you get stunned from Shadow Golf, which is you should be clearing them very effectively if you have an ideal team. If you don't, then if you didn't, there is a chance of you getting stunned, so it's not an insta stun. So that's really getting really unlucky. That's the only way that you can pretty kind of lose. Second way you lose is from the insta kill on the last bar when you don't have enough strike shots or you didn't kill her 8 million HP in time. That's why I didn't really. That's why I don't really like using strike shots in the beginning. Even though you can save it up. You can save up. It will stall up until the last bar, but you don't really need to. That's what I think about it. Now let's look at the monsters. Oh yeah, this is the cross laser. And there is a match shot on Kushinada, but it's really hard to aim, especially with the warps. You can probably do it with Izanami if you position well, but it is smaller than the Izanami stage. You can hardly miss Izanami in the Izanami stage. Match shots, it's very easy to do because it is very big, the match shot radius or the position. But that's pretty much it for the dungeon. Time wise is about at least 10 minutes, 10 to 15 if you're fast enough. You might go to 20 if you don't have an ideal team, which is very long. Izanami, you can probably go for 10 max if you're good enough, and probably like 5 to 6 minutes if you can match shot and pinch shot very effectively and position well. Now let's look at the monsters in NA right now that I have and probably will do. This is my farming team if I'm gonna farm. So max luck, Krishna is a no warp. This is the ascended version. And no warp and Giga Blast. If you're gonna do Kushinada, I would, without an ideal team, then have your third or have at least one Giga Blast or a Blast Bump combo, and no warp. No warp is must. There is no warps and gravity barriers. I would say no warp is more important than gravity barriers, unless you have a piercing non-gravity barrier monster. If you have a bounce no gravity barrier monster, I would suggest you having a no warp character on there. But the ideal team is 3 Izanamis and 1 Roma, or 2 Romas or 2 Romas and 2 Izanamis. But Izanami, there's nothing much to talk about. No gravity barrier, no warp. That's basically what Kushinada is. Meteor strike shot and rebound laser L4 for the bump combo. Nothing much saying why she is good in Kushinada. Now I'm gonna, for that Krishna slot, as long as you have 2 Izanamis and 1 Noma, you can probably carry a lot of monsters in that dungeon. So I'm gonna talk about some of the monsters in that Krishna spot that are very good, that are somewhat useful in that dungeon and can be able to get carried if you don't have an Izanami or a Roma or something like that. So first, let's look at the hatchet monsters that actually I have. So first one, Lota, a blast monster, and it can buff up the attack on on your allies. About Lota, she is one of the best hatcher monsters to actually be useful in Krishna. She can replace an Izanami if you want to. Why? The strategy with Lota is a little bit different. Use Lota Strike Shot on the Shell Golf mini boss stage, I think, and then clear and keep on clearing until the second boss battle, and then use Lota to finish. Use Lota Strike Shot the second time. It'll probably stall up until then, and then you'll go into the last boss stage with your full team with a Lota attack boost, which can help with the last boss to clear very, very fast and very, very safely. Next one is Shampoo. No warp. Strike Shot is bash and then laser, and then EX laser L for the bump combo. I like him a lot for Krishna as a filler because the EX laser can mob clear a lot if it's well positioned, and can slowly ending is a no warp character, and then can bump into his enemies and stuff like that. I really like him. I will probably use him once. And then next one, Rolls Monster Striker. Flight, no gravity barrier. Strike Shot is giant damage on the weak spot. So if you know how to use Roma in terms of slashing vertically or horizontally through the weak spot, she can do that with her Strike Shot and does a lot of damage as well. EX Laser L, which is okay for mob clear. But in terms of order, if you have any of these monsters, then it's Lota, Shampoo, and then Rose Monster Striker. Other hatcher monsters that are really, really good are Brahma. Brahma is a no warp character with a fire resist on the Ascent version, and his Strike Shot is a Harley X Strike Shot, so it can deal damage. You can probably use one on the Shadow Golf stage, on the Shadow Golf mini boss stage. Use it once, and then it'll be stalled up until the last bar, and then you'll use it one more time for that. Another one is Hattori Hanzo. Hattori Hanzo has the same abilities as Izanami, no gravity barrier, no warp, but he only has a homing. Homing does well on the mobs, but doesn't do well on Krishna herself. Kushinada herself, and his Strike Shot is a little bit not that useful. It is a speed up, but his second part of his speed up and I think a power up, but the second part of his Strike Shot, it reflects his bullets, so homings or close spread shots it doesn't. Krishna doesn't do close spread shots, only does giant lasers, so Hattori Hanzo is not that well, but it's a good filler. Some other ones, I don't think there's much other ones, but stick with no warp monsters, so like something like Ninsu can probably get in there as well. The Ascent version, I think, with the blast and the no warp. I think it's the blast and the no warp. I'm not really sure if it's the Ascent or the Evolve version, but Linsu can probably do that as well. Now let's look at the farm modes that are really good. First one is Astroth. It should be this has to be the Evolve version. This is the Ascent version. I just want to show off the Astroth. Just show off Astroth as it is. The Ascent version, the Evolve version is a no warp and a Harley X Strike Shot. So same thing as Brahma. And then I think her bump combo changes to, I think her bump combo still is homing shot 18, which is not that bad. Basically use it as the same as a Brahma. Next one is Hydra. This is the Evolve version. No damage wall, no warp. Basically there for the no warp, and Strike Shot the homing shot can probably clear some mobs as well. And EX Laser L. So no warp. And next one is Emerald Dragon. Emerald Dragon, it has to be the Ascent version, not the Evolve version. This is the Evolve version. Ascent version is a no warp and a blast, just like Krishna. Why I like Krishna more than Emerald Dragon is because Krishna's Strike Shot can actually clear mobs, and with their Strike Shot it just goes crazy. And then, but Emerald Dragon's Strike Shot is only bash the first contact enemy and then laser, if I remember correctly. But also for Able Berries, all of these monsters for Able Berry can do Able Berries. Brahma can do Able Berries. Hanzo not, but if you're gonna use Able Berries, actually farm an Able Berry just for Kushinada, then Cutthroat is the best. Cutthroat or Survivor. Cutthroat, because she has a lot of HP, Cutthroat really high, is really good, and I think even A levels are like 10%, so 8 million, like just cut off like 800,000 off the last bar is like more than enough, which is really good. It saves at least 1 or 2 turns, so it's really good. Or survivor to take less damage, but something like, don't go for like class stuff, class bias or stuff like that, because none of these monsters are D&Ts or samurais. Lota's a paladin. Izanami's a D&T, so not many of them are D&Ts. Yeah, I think Brahma is a D&T, so maybe he's okay if you have like a class stat buff or something like that. But Men's also okay, but Cutthroat is kind of like the #1 able berry for that dungeon. So I think that's basically it for Kushinada. If you have any questions, then just comment on them. I suggest having 2. Having 3 is not that really good. What else Kushinada is very good for is Yamato Takeru, which is the next impossible dungeon, but you only need 1 Kushinada there. And in JP, she's really good for Bishop Mountain, which is another water impossible monster as well. You probably need 2 in that dungeon. So she has her uses. So I hope you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.